So, Bhangra Social Time with Tru Skool, and we are going to be talking about one of his biggest inspirations, Charanjit Ahuja. So quickly, what is it about Charanjit Ahuja that's inspired you so much?
So, I mean, this is actually true to me in terms of life anyway. But I feel like Charanjit Ahuja's music is the definition of the word Punjabi music. So if you go to an encyclopedia or dictionary, what's Punjabi music, then you should read Charanjit Ahuja and then listen to the sounds of Kuldeep Manik Sundar when he first started.
Mm-hmm.
It was just Punjabi music in its purest form. You know, it's like Bhangra music, Punjabi music in its state of fusion, and as it evolved, that's fine. But when we're talking about pure Punjabi music in the terms of definition, then yeah, Charanjit Ahuja is the one who made that. You know, he's almost like the owner of Punjabi music.
So let's run down your top 5 Charanjit Ahuja album productions. In at number 5 is, in the voice of Tru Skool, his album Taur Punjabandi. Clarify for me, is it 94 or 96?
94. No, 95.
95. So between Wikipedia and iTunes, they've got it wrong. Because I had to double check myself.
Yeah, no, it's 95.
95.
I remember very clearly. By the way, there's no such thing as a top 5 Charanjit Ahuja list, yeah? So I'm going to name 5 important albums for me.
All right.
This album here, Tru Skool, he's just one of the greatest Punjabi singers of all time.
Great, man.
You know, he's a master of melody, but he also could sing traditional Punjabi Desi style as well. So he's probably the most complete singer in Punjabi music history.
Yeah, man. Like the nakra he puts into little things like that make a difference. So like he could do the sad stuff, he could do the folk stuff, he could do the pop stuff, but then like he'll add this element of nakra, which is very difficult, and only a handful of singers can do that. Just switches that song from a good song to a, oh my god, I feel like I want to cry if it's a dukhi song.
He's got a classical background as well. You know, I mean, like Balvinder Safri is like, he's a kind of similar thing, but then you've got like the master of that genre, which is Tru Skool. So the compositions on this album, the songs, the melodies with Charanjit Ahuja's music is actually a masterclass of Punjabi music in terms of how to compose and the recording standard, the sound quality, the instrumentation involved, the complexity of this album. I learned so much from this album. Actually, is literally like going to school. Wow. You know, it's like people, the things that have been done in this album, people will have never been able to do in their whole careers, you know, and may never be able to unless they really go and learn off these guys, you know. And I learned so much music from this album. Well, so I just think it's a masterclass of music.
For me, the first track, the title track, and Das Ki Kariye are my favorite tracks. What are there any standout tracks for you on this album?
Das Ki Kariye is my least favorite.
Okay, is it because it's got that kind of Sholay Bollywood style kind of vibe to it a little bit?
I don't know about Sholay Bollywood, or it's just it's a bit cheesy, and it's a bit of a happy dappy kind of song.
Hence the filmy vibe in it.
Okay, well, standout songs for me is Mautuni Oni.
Okay,
that is, you know, Alagoje in there, and the piece, the baja playing, and the strings, and you know, and it's very deep, you know, very intense song, full of depth. You know, the guitars, everything. The level of musicianship in there is just the highest level you can get. You know, that song. These songs, I mean, harmonium playing wise, I'd already been listening to Charanjit Ahuja's a harmonium playing from the HMV folk era, and then he's still bringing newer things in these releases later on, you know. So to be honest, the whole album, you know, Vijay Teriya Rahan, that song there, that shit at the start, my God, it's probably one of the most intelligent Punjabi albums ever made. Could be the most.
Well, one of the biggest ones that Charanjit Ahuja produced was back in 1983, and it comes in at number 4 for you. It is Gurdas Maan and Masti. Everything from the cover to the tracks, it just inspires me. Like I'm looking, I can see it right next to me. The album cover's right there. How incredible is Masti, man? How much of Charanjit Ahuja's music has inspired you listening to this?
Again, you can't. That's why you can't have a top 5, man. This is like, these are all number ones, you know, and everything. My whole lists are really number ones, apart from the football one. This Masti is full of depth, man, and the percussion, everything about it. I can't really say. I don't know what to say, man. It's a very soulful album. Gurdas Maan, you know, in his original, more disty self.
Yeah. The
compositions, the depth in the album, you know, the percussion, the instrumentation, it's just unbelievable. And this is the disty era where the music was, you've got strings and all that in there as well, but it was more raw as well. So it's raw, but it's very soulful as well. It's just and Gurdas Maan's lyrics.
Oi.
Done. Like, you know, the songs like Masti and what these lyrics mean and stuff. Like, my dad used to tell me what they mean.
I mean, like, I'm inspired by this album on 2 levels. One, Gurdas Maan anyway, but then on a personal note, Sardar Gill of Apna Sangeet, he's inspired by him, like, on serious levels, just like you are with Ahuja, he is with Gurdas Maan. And I remember watching videos of Apna Sangeet when they were like a 4-piece band performing Masti live, and Sajjana Ve Sajjana from the album, and Allade Jawani Allade Tamashe and Shad Meri Ba and all this kind of stuff. And like, I was getting bombarded by this album from like 2 different directions, and it's kind of inbuilt now that this is, could it be one of the greatest Gurdas Maan albums of all time?
Oh yeah, well, of course it is, man. Like, the other one I'm going to mention are the top 2, no doubt. No doubt.
Well, the other one that you mentioned that you put in at number 3 of a list that you don't want to claim as your favourites, but there are 5 that have inspired you. In at number 3 is an album that came out a year later. It is Chakkar, produced by Charanjit Ahuja, vocal by Gurdas Maan. I think it's kind of like a forgotten Gurdas Maan Charanjit Ahuja collaboration.
No. What, that album you mean?
Yeah, Chakkar. It doesn't get the...
No. I can explain why.
Go on.
Because it wasn't released on HMV. It wasn't released on EMI. But for whatever reason, so it's a distribution thing, really.
Okay.
But this is the first Gurdas Maan album I'd ever heard in my life at the time when I was a kid. So I was like, who's this Gurdas Maan? I'd heard Shallah, the song, but that was it. And then, which was out before this, but then this was the first album I'd ever heard of his, even though it wasn't his first one. Because my dad was a fan of Kuldip Manik and the Shinda and all that. And it's just one of the best albums I've heard in my life. All these ones I'm mentioning are anyway. It's just, it's just like Masti, but slightly better.
What, like, you know, I think,
you know, these albums, you know, Masti and Chakkar, I learned a lot of music from these albums, man. They actually taught me how to do music, Punjabi music. All these ones I'm mentioning.
And look, as a producer yourself, you know, you're always, once you've done something, you always want to try and do something new or maybe slightly different for another thing. You know, maybe you want to freshen it up. No one really kind of goes, that work, I'm doing exactly the same. So what was it that Charanjit Ahuja did in this album slightly different, let's say, to Musty, would you say?
Bit darker. It's even deeper. It's even deeper. You know, Dostani Mehrbani, that song, that composition is just ridiculous. That composition, how can you make something like that? How can you think of that? I've never heard anything like that before that or after that. It's, you know, I'm going to try and attempt to try and get anywhere near that, you know, one day. And it's just unbelievable. It's like, you know, I've grown up with these albums I'm mentioning, you know, so they're part of me. They're actually part of my DNA, man. So I don't know what to say, because I've said it about Musty, and I'd say this is even above that.
All right. Another album by Charanjit Ahuja that you put in at number 2 is the vocals of Surinder Shinda. It dropped in 1981.
Yaran di Vade Dosti.
Yaran di Vade man. Kehna nahi aunda mainu.
Yaran di Vade Dosti. All I can say is just a gangster album. And I would actually put my top 2 in this list, I would put them above the 3 I've mentioned.
Okay.
So these I would put. So how much I love those albums, this one's even further up. And for me, this is the best. So that Chakkar is the best Gurdasman album I've heard. This is the best Surinder Shinda album I've ever heard. His voice is just amazing. His singing is just amazing. The melodies, the music is just pure Punjabi. Pure Punjabi, pure, and with a bit of gangster in there. I think gangster album.
You know, he's done Heer Di Kali in there. He did Dolly as well.
That's where PMC's Mirza Part 2 is from the Heer Di Dolly, and they remade that and made a new song, called it Mirza instead of Heer. This album is a big part of my sound and style of music. You know, it's like, for me, it's just like it's going in holy levels. like to me, I'm so like possessive of these albums I mentioned. I'm like, these are mine. So like, if anyone else says I like them as well, I'm like, no, you can't. Only I can like them. They're just mine. I own them. I'm like that possessive over these albums. Like when you say I love Musty, I'm like, yeah, but not as much as me too. Like, I'm really possessive over these albums. Like, I act like they're mine. You know, like that's how much they mean to me.
Well, listen, there might be a top spot scramble with the rest of the world, because you've gone with a Charanjit Ahuja production which still lives in memory today. It still gets played in its original form. Doesn't matter who has done a cover of it or not. The vocals of Kuldeep Manik, Charanjit Ahuja production, Ma Hundi Hai Ma. Man, like, there's so many killer tunes on this one.
Charanjit Ahuja has made so many albums that are amazing. Yeah, they're just, I could name 50 amazing albums, so it's hard to name a top 5, but I put this one. This is the first album I heard in my life, period. The first album I heard in my life. So when you hear it, it's like, what's this? This is Punjabi music. So that album to me is Punjabi music. What's Punjabi music? It's Ma Hundi Hai Ma. The mandolin playing. These are the first songs I'd heard. This album and Pot Jattan and GT Road, these are the first things I heard in Punjabi music. So when you're a child and you hear that, it's going to have a huge impact on you, but not just because of those reasons. In terms of the musicality, the expertise that's gone into these albums. I mean, I'm not going to go into that, but I'm still learning from these albums today. Still learning. It's Punjabi music in its purest form. And Kuldeep Manik, for me, my favorite film is Enter the Dragon, right?
Okay.
And then Fist of Fury was like a bit rawer than Enter the Dragon. So that was my second favorite film, yeah? For me, Kuldeep Manik's Sahaba Tarla album, which I could have put in the 5, is Fist of Fury, but this is Enter the Dragon.
Okay.
Because Sahaba Tarla was a bit more raw and this one was a bit more polished. But even though it was very raw, man. And so like, for me, this is like some Bruce Lee stuff going on, man. Enter the Dragon level. You know, that's it.
Mahundi Ema, Kadaya Milade, Jonah Moore, so
Oi
just
More Liao Ni Yaar Mina Chak Gaya,
some
Ambuda Buddha.
classics, man.
Oh yeah. It's you know, like if somebody tried to say anything negative about these albums, I'll be like, shut up, man. Like if anyone tried to say, oh, I'm not into Manak, I'll be like, yeah, well, like it's like if anyone tried to say I don't like these albums, these are better, I'll be like, just don't speak. You know, that's how it goes on them levels when it comes to that, man. I'll be like, you don't know, man. You don't know. You know what I mean? That's what these albums mean to me, man.
Wicked.
When I listen to these albums and I try to keep this element alive in my music today, that's why I stand by my music, because I'm taking influence from the beginning of Punjabi music recordings and trying to bring it to the forefront by the greatest artists. And if I'm trying to follow in that vein, you know, if I know I'm doing it to a correct level when they've heard it themselves, like Charanjit Ahuja has heard my music, when he's saying, yep, you're doing it right, you know, then I'm not going to listen to anybody's.
See, here's a question I don't think I've ever asked you. What's your relationship like with Charanjit Ahuja? I mean, like, you know, it's one thing being inspired by somebody, but like, you know, he's still active, he's still doing his thing, you know, his family are into it. But like, what is your relationship like with Charanjit Ahuja?
I've never met him in person. I've only have convos with him on the phone. Okay. And I'm scared to meet him because I've heard he's a very no nonsense kind of geezer, man. You know, a bit of a Brian Clough character he is, and you know, like, and I'm scared to meet him because I don't want to say anything stupid, you know, with my mouth. So, because to me, man, he's an idol to me, and when to speak to him, for him to know who I am, it's like, what? It's shocking. Yeah. He knows who I am, and he's heard my songs, and he says they sound good. You know, he said that to other people that have come back and told me. Okay. You know, so when it's like that, you think, oh, I don't know, man. It's just shocking. When I speak to him, I'm really nervous. When I speak to him, you know, I get really nervous, and I've actually asked him questions about how these things are made, the techniques and stuff, and he tells me, and he's told me stuff. So, you know, it's gold, you know. So I'm trying to, whatever he's telling me, I'm going to try and carry that on for the future.